got at least 13 million people who don't have jobs. You can look and see as a result there's an increase in the people's involvement. I would dare say you go to any town that's any size and there's some kind of coalition. And it's clear to me that the resistance is increasing and generating more and more support.
We've been before that, we call him the hanging judge 15 times, and he's ruled against us all 15 times.
They went in my mail, they tapped my mail, they tapped my phone. They've done everything. They're violating my rights, my civil rights, and everything about my personal right. It's a disgrace what's going on. The people got to look into this, and we got to do something about it.
They employ 30,000 people, and they ain't got 20 black on the payroll.
They might own the equipment and stuff like that. They might own the coal mines, but by God, we made it for them. Then let them give it to us. Let them give it the fair share of it to us, because we rightfully made it for them. Without us, they wouldn't have nothing.
I believe what the company's doing is dead wrong. The union's got them what they're making. They're going in and taking those guys' jobs. How would they feel if they were sitting out here and it was their job and we went in and took it from them? It would tend to piss them off. I guess being a millionaire ain't good enough. They want to be a billionaire. We make the money for them. Why can't we get a little of that back for ourselves to help us and our families? And they think the people here, we're all going to back down and say, well, okay, since you're a big company, we're just going to back down from it. That's bull. This is going to be the main place right here. This is going to be the final battleground, win or die. One of the two.
In the 1920s and the 1930s, the American workers were some of the most fighting people in the world. And the unemployment stuff is going to bring back out that history of struggle that we've been separated from temporarily, because it wasn't that long ago that, like I say, people was getting paid in company money and living in a company house. You know, it's not just the coal companies, but the government that backs up the coal companies. And the resolution of those problems have to be a struggle of men and women.
The owners have the right to call the National Guard, tell the people who are organizing the union to stop.
And we do know that in the 1930s, the DuPonts on the road gave checks to the Ku Klux Klan. And General Motors was anti-union. So the UAW people had their sit-down strike. The DuPont company responded, as did Governor Frank Murphy, by calling out the National Guard, putting up machine guns on top of the hills, as well as having pitched battles with thugs. The sit-down movement began to spread. Now that's the smashing of a fascist organization by workers when they have the willingness to organize together, as well as the courage to fight.
Hey, look yonder, tell me what you see. Marching to the Vietnam War. Looks like handsome Johnny's doing it again. Marching to the Vietnam War.
They have given wage cuts, and yet the unemployment is increasing.
Well, they're trying to take everything away from us. I believe they're trying to break us.
Hey, what's the use of singing a song? Some of you are not even listening. Tell me what it is we've got to do.
But it's hard to fight when you ain't got leaders, so they're attacking the leaders.
The thing that bothers me is that the same workers in another country are working for the same company I am, and we're all getting a screwing.
Here comes a hydrogen bomb. I can almost hear its whistle. I can almost hear its whistle. It's a long, hard road. They'll be far, we'll be free.
What are some of the ways they're using to attack the unions today?
By breaking our strikes, breaking the morale of the workers, you know, give them as little as possible. If they agitate, take it all away from them.
And workers are facing not wage increases, but wage cutbacks, benefit cutbacks. You know, the government lines up behind the companies.
But there still has to be more production.
Right. Oh, yeah, much more production. Yeah. I mean, you don't forget production at all.
Then they label us a radical. They label us a communist.
A lot of times, the label radical, or the label, all the different labels that they name people who try to fight for what's right is very wrong.
All through history, people have been going to jail for things that they think is right, and the government disagrees because they're the person running the whole world, the whole country. Mm-hmm. and they think different, so they think different. They don't have to arrest them, kill.
You're right. It seems more Americans are starting to speak out for their own rights. The hard part is getting the things that are written down to happen, it seems. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights. People fighting for their right to religion, their right, freedom of speech.
Also freedom from racism. I'm standing up for women's rights because people hating people keeps people apart from talking and getting together to fight, and it leads to war.
So, if you're going to have missiles in Europe, and if you're going to have a war in Central America, and if you're going to have a war in Chad.
Anywhere that they can install a petty dictator and a military rule that safeguards American investment and lines their own pockets in the process, more of our jobs are going to run away to places like Korea, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and that just means less jobs for us. We can't compete with the wages in South Korea. The drive
not to have unions.
The drive for profits, boy, it just it transcends everything in this society.
We got rich people, multinational corporations, telling the law what to do for us, and you'll find majority of head officials in the Klan, they belong to national corporations, and they have big money. Down in North Carolina there, the Klan just went out there and shot people down in cold blood and walked out with a free ticket.
The United States government used the Klan and Nazis to go in and destroy, literally kill, activists who were uniting the labor movement, and they were succeeding in pulling these people together, and the government went in and had them assassinated.
I am extremely proud of the legal execution of communist perverts in North Carolina. I think it was a wonderful blessing from heaven that those 5 communists fell dead in the streets by the bullets of patriots.
America has been making laws against communism and terrorism since 1917. Do you see a continuing pattern?
I would say yes. Today, you have this sort of anti-communist phobia coupled with a revival of the kind of what you call terrorism, oppression, that was so characteristic during the McCarthy period and during the period of the Palmer raids.
Why do we hate the Russians?
Well, when the Russian people had taken all of the punishment they could take and they put the Tsar out of office and took over the government for themselves, then our government tried to prevent that from happening by sending some American soldiers over there. And ever since then, we've been trying to get them to get rid of their government called socialism and take the kind of government that we have here that we call a democracy. You understand it? Or did I use words that were too large for you?
I understand it.
You had the revolution in Imperial Russia. You had the understanding of all capitalistic states that this was a threat to capitalism. And so in the Palmer Age, which occurred in 1919, the word terrorism was flaunted about with great regularity. But they were rounding up what terrorists. President Reagan uses the term evil empire very frequently, giving it a personification of human evil.
This was 1917. You see the Americans entering the war against the Russian Revolution on the side of the Tsar in 1917. The French sent troops, the English sent troops, the Americans came to stop the Russian Revolution. It's winter, it's cold, and it's near Siberia in Russia, and it's right in the middle of their revolution.
Are they poor or very poor?
They were very poor, very oppressed by the Tsar, and it's the main reason that they had a revolution.
Who's the Tsar?
The Tsar was like the king. And in our country, Morgan, who was a banker, and DuPont, who was a banker, had put millions of dollars into the country of Tsarist Russia, given the ruler a lot of money to run his country. And they did not like that the people were taking the country over.
How long ago was this?
1917, 1918.
We've been told that the focus of evil is in the Soviet Union. That makes us self-righteous. That transfers responsibility, and that gives us permission to kill them. It's God's will. We're doing the very same thing we did in World War I, when we were taught to hate the Germans. World War II, we were taught to hate the Germans and the Japanese. Now we trade with the Germans and the Japanese, and they're great friends of ours. Why don't we reverse this process? Instead of fearing them, why don't we begin to learn to trust them? Now, what you hear constantly is you can't trust them. Who says so?
We don't have to trust the Russians, just as they don't have to trust us. Verification means, do you have the capacity to look at what they're doing? And we have the capacity from the air to look at what they're doing. Sometimes the news papers or the news on TV suggest things that make people hate each other as well.
Right. They usually tell lies, you know, and then they make up stories so that people hate people for what happened, even if it isn't true.
People believe
it. People believe it, and then they hate them, and then it stays that way.
Do the students notice a connection between repression here as well as the escalation of nuclear weapons by the United States?
I don't know if you know this, but Puerto Rico has the largest naval base in the world. It is a place where nuclear weapons are stored.
By Puerto Rico?
By the United States. Puerto Rico has no control over its defenses, its defense system. Those are the things that we deal with, and in one way or another, our students deal with.
Some public schools are really bad, and they don't teach you anything, you know.
It hurts in that to hear young people saying, oh, I don't want to do that. I'll just, just sit around, find a job in a factory. And a factory job, that sucks, it's no good.
Puerto Rico is one military bastion for the United States.
I feel like nobody has a right to take something away from us.
I think you're right, too. I think there are politicians doing things like that, where they're taking away rights little by little. And
do you get afraid?
You could say it's kind of scary.
If you're talking about repression, let's talk about what's going on in the center just here. How they've subpoenaed our records, subpoenaed the people that work here. FBI visiting home by home, raiding the center, incarcerating us. When we go out distributing, a lot of us have been arrested for nothing for 8 hours or more.
These little Puerto Rican flags, we're just handing them out and asking people if they wanted to give a donation. And they arrested Marvin and a few others.
5 more.
Yeah.
Just for distributing
little Puerto Rican flags.
I'm amazed. I'm really amazed that you take it upon yourself to do it yourself, and because that's the only way it's going to get done.
The United States is not going to put a red carpet and tell us, here it is. They won't. So people themselves will decide what they want in their society. We just have to give them the little to do it, the push, and they will change it, and they will know what to do, and they will know how to organize schools and people and educate. They have it. They have it within them. The people that control the country will enjoy the benefits of the country.
We all need to open our eyes.
They make us dream things that are not there.
The whole world is being moved around that way, and by very few people. And that's why it's going to change.
We've been involved in perhaps the longest war ever. And so we have a responsibility to speak out against war. Because anything that the government cannot control, or does not have control of, that it develops an ugly obsession to possess it or destroy it.
What's the single most unifying issue for people today?
Attempting to stop any kind of nuclear development in this country is certainly pulling together many different races of people in this country. There has to be mass organization and a mass movement in order to stop and halt the madmen who are moving towards nuclear war. I see no trust in the courts. We've never won.
Does the fact of your children make you brave?
Oh yes, my children make me brave. Very brave. Children know the struggle. And I think that they need very little incentive. And they'll join just as quickly as they can. They are joining. They're running, they're jumping, they're happy, they're singing.
That's all part of the struggle.
Oh, what you gonna do about me? Oh, what you gonna do about me? Well, your soldiers smoke marijuana, can't put them behind your wall. 'Cause most of what we taught them to do is against most of our own sacred laws. We're all fugitives from injustice, going to be free. And your rules and regulations, they don't do the things we need. Oh, what you gonna do about me? Oh, what you gonna do about me? Well, I know we may be the stronger now, but our time will soon come around. Keep adding to our numbers as you shoot our people down. I can feel the future trembling as the word is passed around. We are gonna stick up for what we do believe in. We're not afraid to be shot down. Oh, what you gonna do about me? Oh, what you gonna do about me? Well, I feel just like a stranger in the land where I was born. And I live just like an outlaw. I'm always on the run, got me. Always on the run, got me. Always on the run. 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 Got me going in, out, in, out, in, out, in. Got me going up, down, down, up, down, 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 down. Got me going left, right, left, right, left, left, right, left. No taxation without representation. Remember that. No taxation without representation. Remember that. No taxation without representation. Remember that. Remember that. Remember that. Remember that.
There will be no MX missiles for America. There will be no dictator in America. There will be no police state in America. We must tell the oppressive forces of this country and of the world that once and for all, we have had enough.
Your future is involved in that, like my future too. But I think as a young person, it must be, you must think about it a lot more.
All the kids really go to the army at such a young age that they get very frightened.
People who feel very strongly about weapons around, talk to other people, they can probably get a good number of people to be convinced that it's dangerous, at least dangerous, if not crazy.
And it's hard for them because they hear this, and then they have a scared feeling in them.
Mm-hmm.
And
you find that in
hard.
School?
Yeah.
I know that sometimes it frightens children when they think about these things alone. But I think if children get together all over, they would become stronger and they would be able to also influence their parents a bit more.
But they get a little too scared, like we get a little too scared to do that. We feel that adults could help us.
I would help you, for sure.
I think that people alone, when they're trying to fight, they feel too lonely and they're not as strong. But if they get together, they're more strong and they feel more strong.
The most dangerous people in the world who are imperiling us all are here. And that's where we have to start. I am convinced that the warmongers in the Capitol and in the White House are not interested in disarmament of any kind.
I heard someone in the administration say that we would never be the first country to do a first strike on any other country.
If so, then we violated that by what we did down in the little nation of Grenada. That was a first strike. Certainly Grenada hadn't done anything to us.
In Grenada, you had a very clear and absolute violation, in my judgment, of the Constitution of the United States. Interventionism in its rawest kind of form. If you allow that to happen without objecting, without raising the constitutional issue, next time around it's so much easier to do it, and before you know it, you don't have a constitution left at all.
Your basic question, however, is whether or not we are presently engaged in the production of weapons that could be used for a first strike, and the answer to that is yes. That's why we've deployed nuclear weapons over in Europe now, to have them available in the event we decide to make a first strike against the Soviet Union.
The struggle is to unify everyone. Again, that system that is killing everyone in any country, not only in El Salvador, not only in Nicaragua, not only in Beirut, but in this country too. And poor people is getting much more poor, you know. And this money going to Central America and other countries for weapons, for nuclear, you know, weapons too, and killing people.
Maybe you can say a little bit more about how racism affects people outside of this country.
I have, you know, you can see my face. We have the Indian blood, but we have other kind of different blood, because when the foreign came to El Salvador, in this case the Spanish people, you know, they rape our Indians, you know, women, and then we are here, you know, part of that conquer, you know, history, conquer history. But now we are still the backyard of the United States. The exploitation is incredible. Poor people are still much, much more poor. The same thing in the United States. Why is Coca-Cola in El Salvador when here people doesn't have any jobs? Because here they have to pay you $12 per hour. In El Salvador, they pay you $2 per day. And it's important because you don't have jobs anymore in this country. 10 million people with no jobs is a lot of people in this country.
Do you feel that what America is doing in El Salvador is a separate issue from what America is doing in other places in the world?
Everything is connected. Everything, in any country. You know, from South America, from Chile to wherever, any country that United States is involved, especially in Europe with the nuclear weapons.
Do the women of El Salvador participate in the struggle?
40% of the people who is fighting are women. That means a lot, because El Salvador is a small country. The United States government is sending much more military aid to El Salvador, so they are bombing every day, single day.
What ages are children fighting in the war?
You can say from 8 up to 8 fighting in the war. Yeah, in El Salvador.
8?
Yeah, that's what I was telling Richard, that it's very painful to see that. They fight. They know what it's all about and why at that age. It's very painful.
Now, all the people are rising up against the government, not just the guerrillas who are fighting, but all of us are rising up against the government of El Salvador.
I call for an economic partnership based on our own self-interest, the prosperity of my people and your shareholders. I am prepared to do whatever is necessary to strengthen, support, and protect the private sector, and for that, we need fresh money. And to have fresh money, we need investors. And to have investors, we have to give them security to make sure that the laws and the applications of the laws are in such a way that the investors will be secure and free to go there and invest.
Why are they killing so many civilians?
Many Salvadorians are being killed right now, and the reason for that is that they are organizing for better living conditions, salaries, health care, and education.
What happened to your family?
My family was assassinated in 1979 by the army, and in 1980 my brother was assassinated 3 days after the assassination of Monsignor Romero. He was tortured and his throat was cut, and finally we found nails in his ears.
Are you afraid?
Yes, I am afraid if I go back to my country.
Are you afraid of being here in the United States?
Yes, I am afraid to be here because the immigration is persecuting not only me but also all the Salvadorians that are in the U.S.
Whether it's a bayonet stuck in a Guatemalan child's throat or whether it's a cruise missile aimed at a large population, underneath you've got the same people pulling the switches or sticking the bayonet.
People are understanding resistance is the only way toward some kind of change in their own future.
The religion that I've heard in this country has become sort of unabated capitalism. You know, if you're really good and you really obey, God will reward you and you'll get rich and maybe powerful. If you're not in struggle, it seems to me, you're not even talking about a religious tradition. Because we have to make justice happen. We can't pray for it. And that means choosing sides, and that means it is a political act.
This issue of Central America, the undocumented aliens that come across, the nuclear arms race, the conventional arms race, we must take individual positions on that. And it doesn't necessarily have to go along with, whatever, let us say, the government is saying about it. We can have the courage of our own convictions.
Russia, I hear, and China have promised not to do a first strike, but we're adamant that not wanting to give up to the first strike.
How many times have you been arrested?
I should keep track of it, shouldn't I? It's about 12 to 15 times.
Going to jail 15 times, I don't know if I could do it.
Always been quite scary. Taking a stance and bothering people and standing in their way and wanting to say what I want to say, and they don't want to hear it. It's scary. It's worth it, though. It's changed my life a whole lot. How would you like to be arrested? Do you think it'd be scary?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always get scared, too. But I think of children like you many times, and I think, well, there's some children like you that are going to be better off for it.
That's why I believe in the children. I have great faith in these guys, because they know a great deal more about humanity than I think we do.
Maggie, is it difficult or easy to petition against the United States policies and for peace?
It's hard.
Is it scary to do that?
But you have to go tell people what you're petitioning for and what the change would be if it works. You have to explain it. And if you don't explain it well, then they won't sign. And then you're in trouble.
What would the change be that you'd like?
There's too many.
It should be better, right? Especially if you say, this is the land of the free. Then we learn that a lot of us Americans are not even good people, right?
I think the people generally are disturbed by the likelihood that we will end up going to war. And whenever we go to war, it's the poor people who lose their lives.
You saying, are we fighting for our life? Yeah. That's what we're really basically doing. I'm fighting for my life and my future, to tell the truth.
Because of our so-called being ready to have the first strike in El Salvador or in South Africa or at Russia.
I wish I were young enough to refuse. I strongly support and encourage non-registration for the draft. I believe it's obeying a higher law, the law that says thou shalt not kill. And to support the systems of killing is to sign up for the draft or to register. I strongly support breaking that law.
We're giving them the other side of the military that they don't get from the be-all-you-can-be ads or the recruiters.
My brother, he's a Vietnam veteran, and he's not the same person he was when he left. So that affected me very deeply.
So you wanted to do something and you didn't know how then, in other words?
The 50-year-old person who owns some IBMs or whatever, they're not going to be going to wars anywhere in Central America or Africa and it's going to be third world people.
Does that mean that you're not for the things that America's doing in Africa and South America, in places like that as well?
I felt America's role in Vietnam was totally. They shouldn't have been there. They said they're going to help the plight of communism. What's the definition of communism?
How many young people got drafted knew what communism was all about? Like they had to kill men, women, and children for no reason at all because they didn't know who was the enemy.
I'm 19. I can't picture myself being in some other country shooting someone who looks like me. You know, that's gonna hurt me. I can't even shoot someone who don't look like me.
Is it personally frightening to be involved in something like this? Or does the group give you strength?
Who should we be fighting?
Well, that's what I'm asking. There are a lot of people doing things that are harassed by the police, harassed by the government, harassed by people who would not like them to be doing it.
Ever since this country's been a country, people have been suffering around here. They don't help the people that's poor, they help the people that's rich. And that's what all the government is about, is helping the rich and not the needy. And the needy is the one who's making this government run. We're giving our blood, sweat, and tears to work in these factories, the canneries.
Doing it the way you're doing it is something that they definitely don't want you to be doing.
I was scared of what other people are gonna think, what other people are gonna think, and who's gonna find out about me. But freedom of speech, that's in the Bill of Rights. It's their law, too. And let me tell you, they break it all the time.
It's like when you first come through the New York Harbor, the first thing you see is the Statue of Liberty. Give us your poor, give us your hungry, give us your needy. We here, and what do we get? If we can't go out and speak against what we feel is wrong is going in the government, why are we gonna go to jail for it? It's freedom of speech and Ku Klux Klan. Why are they running around here in white sheets and get to do any damn thing they want to do? Why should anybody oppress us because we speaking out, because we feel things are wrong? I see people every day hungry, all the time. They come up to me to ask me for money. Hey, I give them the money if I got it. Sometimes I can't feed myself. It's hard. It's hard growing up like this. And it's gonna be even harder for all other people growing up like this.
Lincoln, Mr. Lincoln, President Lincoln, freed the slaves. That's not really true. After the slaves were freed, Lincoln still had slaves. I think someday there'll be a lot of books talking about the real truth, about what happened in history. They kind of keep it a secret. They don't tell us too much about it. We can go here. I think this is one of the first monuments they built in Washington. Well, I guess maybe the George Washington Monument. Now we're going to see something really incredible. When you think that men could build something like this, you know, and it's a lot of bricks. It could be a hospital, right? Could be something that really helps people.
Have your permit? In this country, even if white Americans were told the truth about South America, about Central America, if even these truths were pursued, I do not believe your average white American, I believe he would go into culture shock. I seriously believe he would freeze and go into shock and say, send in the Marines, it must be alive. I do not believe that Western civilization is morally credible. I believe it's morally bankrupt. That's what scares me about it. The United States government definitely has the capacity for genocide.
The American dream doesn't work anymore. And it makes the ideology is very elastic. And that's good and it's dangerous. You know, it's that same disorientation that allows fascism to come. It allows an increase in Klan and Nazis because they hear that there's no jobs and they don't have a job, and they come to believe that the source of the problem are black people or Jewish people or communism.
They are armed to the teeth right now. I mean, they got their own military. They got automatic weapons.
When they get in that kill zone and you initiate fire, maximum damage in the shortest length of time. Maximum violence upon them. They mustn't have a chance to do anything but one thing: die.
I've been out in the streets with folk who were confronting the Klan, folk from churches and from grassroots organizations who are indeed participants in the struggle.
There was a rise in racism throughout the Western world, and a very conscious linkage between Klan and Nazi forces in this country and other countries. And the traditional strategy has been to pit white working class and poor people against blacks and Hispanics and Jews and other groups in the society. We have an administration in power which is the epitome of vested self-interest of the white ruling class. And they are the Klan mentality, whether they wear sheets or suits.
They use the Ku Klux Klan and those right-wing groups to frighten and to chill dissent. And I think that's exactly the same as the Latin American dictatorships that we're seeing right now.
Prejudice doesn't really help us to see the real issues that surround us.
There's two things I'm concerned about when people are prejudiced of blacks, and also I don't like nuclear weapons and wars. Why do you think the government is wanting to scare people and kids and families?
Possibly to keep them from talking to each other. If a person is afraid to speak to other people, then obviously things will stay the same. Things will stay separate and people will lose their rights.
As you crank up the paranoia around national security matters, the Russians are coming, it gives you then an excuse for moving against the civil rights and civil liberties of American people by saying these things must now come second, there's a greater threat.
Do you think that we can even call it democracy when you really still have to fight and stand up and particularly in a sense do things that seems that shouldn't have to be done in a democracy?
No, we don't have true democracy here. You always have to stand up for your rights and stand up for what's right.
The progressive elements in the society have got to come together not only to save ourselves, our narrow interests, but to help save humankind.
People are taking action more naturally. Everyday people are more visibly involved.
If you aren't willing to take those risks, then they're never going to really find their voice either.
And you keep those trucks out of New York.
Okay? Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a petition against the transportation of waste, nuclear waste, and the bombs and missiles that are kept in the harbor. We want to keep New York City nuclear free, because if we do it here, maybe other countries would get to do it too. Would do it too.
And you get people to sign this.
Yep, I'm gonna do it too.
You think it's hard?
A tiny bit.
Maybe I can come along and help you out with that one.
Thank you. Would you like to sign this?
No, I want them to send them to Moscow.
Okay, you show me how you do it, all right?
Okay, you go up to people, and they might stop and they might not. And you say, would you like to sign this petition? And they'll say, what is it about? What is it about? And you'll explain it about the cruise missiles and things. And then they'll sign it if they stop.
Okay. And you want to try it together?
Sure.
Okay.
Hi, would you like to sign this?
You know they were trying to put nuclear weapons on Staten Island?
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding. This is to keep it out of the harbor. That's why we're doing it.
In Sicily, we have 4 American bases, plus they have nuclear weapons.
People are absolutely terrified that the United States will initiate a nuclear war on what they regard as their terms. There will be no limited war, of course. That's why you've got such an enormous growth in the anti-war movement in Europe and in Britain now. I mean, people really are taking to the streets and they're terrified. The same thing's happening in Australia. We've got 20 plus American military bases in Australia. People are enormously afraid of American policy.
Don't they think they need some protection in England against the Russian threat?
They don't see cruise missiles as protection. They are designed to start a nuclear war. They're not deterrents. They are a gross escalation. Every single cruise missile is the equivalent of 16 Hiroshima bombs. 16 Hiroshima bombs, each one of them. You know, they talk about Russian expansionism, you know, but the Americans are in Guatemala, El Salvador, Chile. They've been in Vietnam. There are bases littered all across Korea. In my country, we have 102 American military establishments. What's with this fear of the Russians? It isn't 102 Russian bases across my country. The American army in Germany is practicing mass burial. They are digging trenches, putting soldiers in nylon bags and lying them end to end to see how many they can get in. They are practicing mass burial. They launched the 5th Trident submarine last weekend. Each Trident is capable of destroying 428 cities in one go, and it's the 5th. And they say they're keeping up. That isn't keeping up, that is gross escalation. Our countries are preparing to wage war.
We have somewhere between 20 and 30 submarines at sea all the time. And these have something like 4,000 to 5,000 nuclear warheads on it. The MX missile system is a missile system which will really only be useful if we use it in a first strike. We're going to use all of our wastes from our peaceful program, convert it into bombs, and the use of plutonium for weapons gotten from the waste from our peaceful nuclear power program would be a very significant change in basic U.S. policy.
U.S. intervention is happening in Europe and it's happening in El Salvador. Those are both forms of intervention. You know, we get our privilege based on what somebody else doesn't get.
Do Americans have a wrong idea of the Russians?
I don't think that Americans hate Russian people. I don't think so. I'm sure not. But propaganda helps this, like it helped Hitler, to, first of all, to say that, oh, those guys are bad guys. Look through many, many programs. You will see how many bad guys speak with Russian accent, or there is a Lenin portrait or Marx portrait after him, and he's always bad guy.
Does the escalation of nuclear weapons in the United States have an effect on your peacetime economy?
It affected very much our economy because we had to, instead of making bicycles or food or, I don't know, movies or anything else, we had to spend plenty of money and time and efforts, physical and moral efforts, for creating a nuclear bomb.
Do you think America is increasing the danger of war?
Oh, yes. Thinking that it is possible to ruin the whole Europe and to be all right here in the United States and then to be happy, it's a fascist method of thinking. Also, your administration is going to militarize outer space, which is a terrible thing from the whole humanity. The whole world will be under permanent threat of disaster, and also it certainly will stimulate further armament race. And it is possible to find a control, and we are ready to discuss how to control it. We were together, the United States of America and the Soviet Union, and we fought together against Hitler. We have plenty of problems which can be solved only together when we are together.
Are the Russian children afraid
of Americans? I don't think so, Tony. All Russian children grew up with together with Tom Sawyer, together with Huckleberry Finn, and we are not afraid of you or your father or anybody else in the street. But the politics of your government frightens us.
If the Russians did not have a large nuclear arsenal, what would the Russians see as a danger to the world? Why do they keep their defensive nuclear weapons?
It would mean that Washington will get terrible superiority in armaments, in nuclear armaments. It would mean that it can help some people to get the idea that it is possible to destroy Soviet Union without any return strike.
Do the Russian people demonstrate for peace?
May and June, about 800,000 people took participation in demonstrations throughout the whole country for peace. And the slogans which they carried were no nuclear arms, not in the West, not in the East.
This is a tiny little planet moving through space. It's the vehicle we're all riding upon, and it would seem to me totally insane to destroy the very vehicle that you're traveling on. The European peace movement, with literally hundreds of thousands of human beings mobilizing themselves in virtually every major capital in Europe, saying we don't want the deployment of these weapons, but going beyond that, We don't want war. We want peace. We don't want any additional arms race that devastates us. We don't want a policy that says you will save Europe by destroying it. This is madness, and we now stand up to challenge the absurdity of the arms race and the potential danger of nuclear war. That captured American people's attention, that they now have to become activists. They have got to move to the streets. Second reason why they have to move. When you look at the United States Congress, I don't think that you see a collection of leaders. You see, for the most part, 30 to 60 members of the Congress in both the House and the Senate collectively who are prepared to really, really seriously deal with this matter. That's why American people have got to go to the streets. This issue is too important to leave to the politicians.
Also, we shouldn't sit around, if we get our rights. We should fight for the other countries, because we're also putting bombs and stuff and storing our weapons in other countries, like Japan and things. And I don't think we have a right to do that if they can't, like Germany it's also happening in Germany. It's like taking over another land, when it's not even your country.
They haven't declared
They don't have a strong,
and
they don't have a strong government. And we do, like Japan has a nuclear-free zone, and so do a lot of other countries and cities and states here. It's all gone through the history, but it can stop here.
We should have 1 million plus people out in the streets every day. That's the way it's going to end, that we're going to end this nuclear madness.
People can change it, but to do so, they've got to take certain chances with their lives, jeopardize themselves in one way, get back in the streets, get back where they can be seen and felt, where they present a danger to the existing society. The war in Vietnam ended because of that force. The outward manifestations of racial oppression ended because of that force. We, the people, in order to accomplish certain purposes, give powers to a central government, but it comes from the base, the people. And if the people only never forgot that and got back in those streets whenever things needed street action, because that's really what the system fears the most. I like to see pickets around the Supreme Court now. I like to see demonstrations against the court, demonstrations on every level. And we've had them, in the past, and they work. They always work.
Our oppressors know that whenever we get a sense of our power and begin to move, they can hang it up because it's all over me. We got to save the world, and we got to change it at the same time.
The issues for the children are racism in this country, are economic exploitation, nuclear disarmament. There is potential in an international nuclear disarmament movement. I think that everyone should participate in that.
I will never go back to my kitchen sink, and neither will any of the other women that I'm working with, because what we really want to do is we want to change the world, and we're going to do it.
The American workers can expect some of the same kind of oppression, economic hardship that their brothers and sisters in other parts of the world face. Bethlehem Steel doesn't just exploit workers here. They got coal miners in South Africa. They got coal mines in Brazil. They're spread out all over the world. You can't beat a multinational corporation with a strike against one part of it.
We're all fugitives from injustice, going to be free.
Everything is just totally screwed up. It's all for the rich and not for the needy.
Oh, what you gonna do about me? What you gonna do about me? Well, I feel just like a stranger in the land where I was born. And I live just like an outlaw. I'm always on the run, they got me. Always on the run, they got me. Always on the run. Always on the run. Always on the run, always on the run, always on the run, always on the run.
Actually, I was asking them to shut the whole country down was what I was doing. I said, let's all shut everything down at the same minute, the same second, and see who the boss in this country is. We are.
We have to go beyond our provincial interests and be part of one movement. One movement. We have to be the peace movement. We have to be the civil rights activists. We only know two words that are important to our movement. That's strike and boycott. And I'm going to teach you the word for strike in Spanish. It is huelga. 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 Huelga.
Sweat and work. You think you're a jerk. Think that's all you're gonna do. 'Cause someone else is making the rules. We've got a weapon. It's the only one. Use it on the big boy. Get them on the run. We've got to stop all the factories. Stop all the trains. Stop what you're doing until the whole damn thing gets rearranged. Hey brother, you're not alone. You can fight them on your own. If we all decide to fight, we could get it done, make them feel our might. We've got to be united. We've got to be strong. They're gonna try to scare us, but we all got to hold on. We'll stop all those factories. Stop all the trains. Stop what you're doing until the whole damn thing gets rearranged. The hour's getting late, and every trick they pull gets us closer to destruction. We can't play the fool. We got a weapon, it's the only one. Use it on the big boys, get them on the run. We got to stop all those factories, stop all the trains. Stop what you're doing until the whole damn thing gets rearranged. Stop all those factories. Stop all the trains. Stop what you're doing until the whole damn thing gets rearranged. Stop what you're doing until the whole damn thing gets rearranged. Sweat and work. You think you're a jerk. Think that's all you're gonna do. 'Cause someone else is making the rules. We've got a weapon. It's the only one. Use it on the big boys. Get them on the run. We've got to stop all the factories. Stop all the trains. Stop what you're doing until the whole damn thing gets rearranged. Stop what you're doing until the whole damn thing gets rearranged.
That's the end of this Alternative Views. We'd like to thank Karen Batten of Parallel Films for making this documentary, Voices in Dissent, available to us. Alternative Views is a production of the Alternative Information Network, P.O. Box 7279, Austin, Texas, 78713. Goodbye.